Hey guys, how you doing? This is Mike from Games and Gadgets. Welcome to the channel. This is a repasting video, a Gigabyte 3070 Ti overclock gaming card. So basically a quick background. I bought the card used on eBay, hooked it up, noticed while running a benchmark, I noticed the hotspot temperature was going up to 105. After about 15 minutes on the benchmark, the screen went black, the fans went to full speed. It stayed that way for 30 seconds. The computer didn't shut down. So then after the image came back on, I just shut it down. I knew it was wrong. I knew it needed to be repasted. Normally I would have returned it, but I figured this was a good opportunity to repaste and make a video out of it. The washing machine. So here we go. All right, this is pretty straightforward. There are 8 screws you have to remove. The 4 screws around the GPU chip have springs on them, so just be careful not to lose the springs. I lined them up in the same order that they went in, up on top of the bench. All right, so I just take my time pulling the board apart. I try not to bend the PCB. It's actually sticking by the cold plate where the contacts are up front. So I'll just kind of gently pry the cooler and the PCB apart over there. The further from that point you pull, you do risk bending the board. So I just take your time. Don't pull too hard. Eventually you'll get it there. So I actually cut out about 3 or 4 minutes of the video. It actually took me a while to figure out how to get the RGB socket unplugged. I figured I'll leave the fan sockets in and just fold it open. So what I ended up doing was getting a really small straight screwdriver, and on one side of the socket I could get it in there and just twist it a little bit to get it loose. It worked pretty well. All right, cleaning it was pretty straightforward. I got a shop towel and 99% alcohol, and I just used like a plastic scraper tool to scrape off the old and damaged thermal pads, and I used the alcohol and the shop cloth to wipe off the old thermal paste and clean off the VRAM chips. I mentioned it before, but I left the VRM thermal pads in place. They were good. Figured I didn't need to change them. But yeah, like I said, it was pretty straightforward. Just scrape off the old thermal pads and wipe it with alcohol. So here I just used a cheap $9 digital caliper I got on Amazon to measure the thickness of the pads. I mean, this wasn't necessary, but I also use it to measure the dimensions of the pad to cut. But you could also use a plain old ruler to do that. I got these thermal pads on Amazon. They're relatively inexpensive, like $10. Owl Tree thermal pads. They come in 4 thicknesses. I believe I need 2.0 millimeter. So it's pretty easy putting the RGB plug back into the socket. And one thing I noticed when I had to reopen the card to repaste it, because I had to change and put different thermal pads on, that the plug came right out of the socket without needing a screwdriver. I just pulled it with my hand. So this is pretty straightforward. Just kind of try to line up the screw holes with the I guess the bottom screw holes, and try not to have to remove the PCB again to disrupt the thermal paste. I heard it creates air bubbles. So I lined it up as close as I can get it, put it down, and just put the screws back in. The 4 center screws, I torqued them down evenly using a cross pattern. And don't make it too tight, just snug. So after putting the card back together and hooking it up to the computer, running Heaven Benchmark again, the GPU hotspot temperature came down 22 degrees, but the memory junction temperature went up 22 degrees. So I'm going to try better quality pads. I found these on Amazon after doing a little bit of research. I was going to get the Thermal Grizzly pads, but they're expensive, and I found these actually they're also good. These G-Lid, I'm gonna go 2.0 millimeter, which it does seem a little thick, but the factory thermal pads actually compress down. We'll see how this works. I don't know if these are going to be as soft, but I went with these G-lids. They got good reviews and have a good thermal conductivity rating, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so these are the new pads. These are the G-lid 2mm pads. Put new paste on the CPU. Put new paste on the GPU. And I'm going to put it together. We'll see how it works. Overall, everything went well. The job was relatively easy to do. The hardest part was actually disconnecting the RGB plug out of the socket after I separated the board and the cooler. VRM pads, we ended up going with the 2mm G-lid Solutions GP Ultimate. The size was 90mm by 50mm. We didn't change the VRMs. The factory pads were in good shape and they were in place, so I just left them. As far as the temps, originally the temps were, the memory junction temp was 66 and the GPU hotspot temperature was 105.4. These were all measured after running Heaven Benchmark for 15 minutes. So I went with these owl tree pads on Amazon originally, and the memory junction temp was 88, which was high, which sparked me to go with better pads. And the GPU hotspot was 85.8, which was good. It was acceptable. But then after changing into the G-lid pads, the memory junction temperature was 70, which is much better. The GPU hotspot temperature was actually warm. It was 90.3. But then after playing games normally for a couple hours, I noticed the temperatures were coming down. So this morning, I ran Heaven Benchmark again for 15 minutes. And the memory junction temp was 74. And the GPU hotspot temp was 85.9. The memory junction temp decreased by 8 degrees. And the GPU hotspot temp decreased by 19.5 degrees. I suspect that is the increase in the memory junction temp was simply due to more heat being transferred into the cooler cold plate. So overall, that was it. I mean, it worked out well. Well, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.